This video is for parents and educators who are struggling to connect with their child or student with autism. And believe me, I know the struggle is real. I remember about 23 years ago, I was a young speech therapist who had just taken a job at a school for children with autism. It wasn't my first job, but I wasn't ready. I had come in with my bag of tricks that I had used previously, and nothing in that bag of tricks was working at all. And so I felt completely lost, and I felt like I was really struggling to connect with my students, and I really didn't know what to do about it. By the way, my name is Hope, and again, this video will share 5 signs that you may be struggling to connect with your student or child with autism. Sign number 1, you cannot pinpoint your child or student's interests. I remember one student that I had, no matter what I put in front of him, he would just kind of stare into space. And I would try to prompt him along, encourage him, let's get going on this activity. And eventually he would. He was pretty good-natured, but I could see right away that he was not interested in doing this. And I really felt like this was an exercise in futility because he had no motivation to do it at all. And maybe you can relate to a child or a student like this. Sign number 2, you're having difficulty getting your child or student to interact in their environment. So this is somewhat similar to sign number 1, except it's broader than that because it's not just involving the child's lack or limited number of interests, but that there is a lack of connection in the child's environment, meaning you may have a child that is walking around a room aimlessly, not engaging with any of the activities or objects in the room, not interacting in any way with any of the people in the room. I remember a student of mine who fit this description really well. Just couldn't get started on anything, would just kind of aimlessly walk around the room. Again, just like the example of sign number 1, no interest in any of the objects, and didn't seem to engage with either his peers or the staff in the room. However, when he got out on the playground, he was very intentional in that he was very interested in spending the entire recess time running around in circles around the perimeter of the playground. So maybe you can relate to a child like this as well. Sign number 3. You are struggling to help your child or student to make meaningful choices. Now, this is pretty common with children with autism. A lot of times they can't make a meaningful choice because the verbal language that's presented to them is too long for them to get the whole message. Meaning, if you were to give a child 2 choices, even if they wanted the first choice you offered, they might very well give you the second choice because that was the last thing and the only thing that they remember hearing you say. I'm going to give you an example. So one time I was out on a class trip with a class of students and staff, and we were in a restaurant, and there was a student who wanted to order a hamburger for lunch. So he was able to order the hamburger, and he was asked, "Do you want fries or a salad?" So the child said salad, and he clearly, by the time he got his meal, did not want that salad. Why did he order the salad? Well, it was the last word that he heard in that question. So it was the last thing that he could process, and that was the only thing that he could say. So we have to be mindful that when we offer choices, that we have some way of being able to make it more meaningful to children. And in a later video, I'm going to get into that with you. So that is a struggle that a lot of children with autism have. And we, of course, struggle because we want to help them. Sign number 4, your child or student is prompt dependent. So what does it mean to be prompt dependent? Well, it means that the child is very used to getting the little cues that are given to him in order to do something. So some examples would be if the child is always relying on you to tell him what to do or her to do at every single step. Another example would be if you have to give gestures like pointing to something in order for the child to follow along with whatever he or she needs to do. Sometimes the child might require a tap on the shoulder in order to get started with something. So there's these little prompts that the child needs in order to get going and continue to work on something and complete something. So an example is a child in my school who, it was like clockwork. Every morning he'd come in to the classroom and he would just stand there by where he needs to hang up his coat and his backpack. And this was a child, it wasn't even his first year of school, but he had become so prompt dependent that throughout all those years, where every day of all the years that he was in that school, he was expected to hang up his coat, go to his backpack, get the communication book in his backpack, bring it to the teacher's desk, put his lunch away, close up his backpack, hang it up, and go sit at his desk. But he required that the staff prompt him with every step of that whole process over all of those years. So that was something that needed to be extinguished. And maybe you have some recollection of some children or students that kind of show that same sign. Sign number 5, your child or student is having frequent meltdowns. Now, there are many, many reasons for meltdowns. It could be that the child is not getting through to the person about what he or she wants, and so he or she is really frustrated. It could be that the child isn't feeling well and has no way to communicate this, or the child is in pain. The child might have something that keeps going in his or her mind over and over again, and they're just in agony about it, and something that's internal that we can't really predict necessarily. It could be that the child is bored, has nothing constructive to do, according to his or her interests, and is just having a meltdown in order to create some kind of stimulation in his or her system. So there's many reasons for that. But if we can tap into interests that the child has, we can prevent some of these meltdowns that do. Despite the struggle, there are things that we can do to make things better in terms of the connection that we have with our children and students. And I'm so excited to share more information with you, starting with my next video. So until then, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to meeting with you again soon. Bye for now.